So here's a question I'm going to ask our guest here. There he is. He's Smylie Kaufman. Smylie, with a name like that, are you allowed not to smile at any stage in your lifetime, or is it like mandatory? There you go.
That's a great question. I mean, it's a family name, Smiley, so it's something that I'm very proud to have the name. I had a chance to meet my namesake as a kid. He passed away when I was about 9 or 10 years old. So once I got past all of the kids in first and second grade calling me Frowny in the playground, I quickly was very proud to always have my name Smiley, and it's one that most people don't forget.
Yeah, I guess it's Carter Smiley Kaufman. There he is.
Yep.
You know what? I think it's super cool just to mine this a little longer. Your brother's name's Lucky. I think you guys have got the two best. You like movie stars, man.
No, totally. It's Lucky's a family name as well. We got a crazy family apparently to have names like these, right? So
Mhm.
we both I think wear our names proudly. My brother actually, when he was a little kid, was in the pool and had a close to a drowning episode. So it's kind of one of those wild, yeah, your family name's Lucky, but you were lucky to be alive. So it's kind of crazy with that. And then luckily my name kind of fits my personality as well. If I was an introvert and didn't like coming on podcasts or having my own podcast, then I think the name wouldn't be quite as fitting.
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see Smiley is in his studio. He's got a podcast as well. And as I've watched you come into broadcast from your career on the tour, PGA Tour winner, you shine and you do the job so well. So, folks, I asked him to join us. I'm glad you would, Smiley. Now,
Of
for the folks
course.
who don't know you so well, put yourself into context a little bit. Grew up in golf. Just talk to us about how you got to where you are right now.
Well, I would say that golf always, or really just sports in general, were always very natural to me. Always had really good hand-eye coordination. Any team that I was ever on, I was always the best player. Not to just brag, but that just always seemed to be the case of any team I was on growing up as a kid. Just super competitive, hated to lose. If I ever did lose, I was one to cry about it as a kid. So I think naturally my first instinct to losing has always been frustration, and I always wanted to win, and I felt like I should win in just about everything that I do, and or excuse me, that I did. And with golf, had a ton of success at an early age, basically won just about everything in the area for a long time. Then I started to get to more regional, national stuff, realized, okay, there's other people like me, and that I had to continue to get better and better. Took my hits and lumps from time to time in the game, but I played basketball all the way through high school as well. So I was a two sport athlete. Once I settled in on basketball being the second sport, and I think that was really good for me because I didn't get burnt out by the game of golf at an early age. Having 2 seasons, being able to play basketball, and now on what all we talk about is trying to hit the ball further. I think I had the quick twitch muscles from playing basketball and other sports that naturally I was always a really good athlete. So you just I just needed a coach to tell me, hey, like this is how you do it, and I could be able to do it most of the time. So I would say that golf for me was really good, though. Right from the get go, it taught me a lot of things about just life in general. And as soon as I got to college, I realized that I got to put a lot of work into this.
Yeah. Hey, you made a statement there I want to dig on. You said as I went from the area to the region, I suddenly, whoa, there's a bunch more talent just like me. And
Hmm.
and I had to get better and better. And it reminds me of my mom, who's always said to us, new level, new devil. And so I want you to advise folks, because you've been through all the levels to the top of the game, winner on the PGA Tour, that next step, because it can be frustrating. Is it just pure work? I mean, as you move from level to level, what did you feel like you had to get better at, or was it all encompassing?
Back when I was 14, 15 years old, we're talking about 16, 17 years ago, it was a lot different back then, right? It was just who can shoot the lowest score. And it's always been that who can shoot the lowest score. But now there's just so much more that goes to it. There's so much more exposure at every single level now, with social media being the main culprit of that. When we were playing, we went and played golf. If you played great, if you didn't matter. We were going to go to the pool after. So that
Nobody
was
knew
kind of
about
like
it either, right?
that was that was life on the road in junior golf. Probably it started getting a little bit more serious when I got to high school, but seventh, eighth grade, we were still going to go to the pool after the round. Uh, but yeah, I think yeah, new level, new devil. That's a good point. I think I realized that just playing with talent that's the same age of mine, that instantly I knew that these guys were better than me at the time. And I hadn't had players that were outside of Bobby Wyatt be anywhere near close to as good as I was at the time. And Bobby was he was a number one amateur in the world at one point. So at an earliest age, I realized what really good talent was and how it drove me to want to get better. And I would spend hours and hours chipping around the greens. I wasn't much of like a guy that go hit a ton of balls. I was one that played a ton,
Okay.
and I always feel like the better I got, was the more I played, the more I made birdies. I just felt like the golf course that I grew up on, Vestavia Country Club, was one that taught you how to just go play golf. You go hit it hard, go be good with your wedges, and learn how to make putts. And that was kind of my formula for not only just junior golf, but as a pro too. It's kind of how I learned the game and how I played the game.
You know what you say there is so wise because we live in this era of information, right? And you're like, it's just kind of the nuts and bolts of it is just going to play golf. I almost feel like people trying to ascend or improve wherever their levels are. There's all this info that maybe we're making too big a deal of it. Do you think I'm kind of crazy here, or are you feeling me?
Uh, yeah, it's a game that sometimes the harder you work at it, the worse you get, right?
Ah,
And
seeing
I've
that.
I've I've felt that as a as a professional PGA Tour player, I felt that as a junior golfer, but in other aspects of my life too. Sometimes the harder you work, the worse you get. And I've really figured out that over the years, the more that I have a plan and things that I do, the better the results eventually become.
Mhm.
I've some of the best advice I got was from my short game coach, James Siekman. And he sat me down. I think I was kind of coming off of a stretch where I wasn't putting as good. And he's always been somebody to always give me confidence and say, hey man, like you're a one putter, like you're a really good putter. But the work that we're doing now on your short game and your putting and your chipping, we're going to continue to work on this day after day after day. Like stay committed to the process, stay committed to what we're trying to do. Don't skip any steps. And then a month from now, that's where we're working to. We're not working towards the results tomorrow. We're working for results a month from now.
Yeah.
And really, you see that on the PGA Tour now too. Even if you're not caught up in what everybody's working on, but you see confidence build week over week over week with guys that they finally get over the hump, they make the cut, and then they finish in the top 10. And then you start to see they build good weeks after good weeks. And I think for me, that was something that I always believed in, was having a plan, working the plan, and trusting the process, and knowing that a month from now we're going to be better than we were a month ago.
Takes a lot of discipline not to look over your shoulder and am I right?
Well, I was bad about it too for a bit because I was I don't think anybody's ever been put in the, like, if you're listening, if you've been on the PGA Tour, great, but if you haven't, I'll tell you that when you're in a contract year, and PGA Tour players can be in a 1 year contract year if you do not have full status, whether it's the winning, um, the prior year, and you have an exempt status for a couple of years. That's the best place to be because you can go work on your game without any repercussions because you have a job the following year. But when you're in that 1 year contract, it's you can sometimes make decisions that are too short-sighted.
Okay.
And I was victim of making some short-sighted decisions and probably wouldn't have made changes if I felt like I needed to fix now and not have a much more in-depth look at what my career would look like. And I think it led me down to some paths. I had injuries as well, that I can blame, but I also know that I was a very simple dude, didn't like hitting a ton of balls, just like playing golf. And as we talked about at the beginning, that's kind of my DNA. I
Yeah.
never was somebody that was a technical dude, but once you turn that brain on, it's sometimes tough to turn off.
Hey, okay, yeah, you've sort of led me to something I wanted to talk about. So you're a great amateur, junior golfer, amateur to college LSU where your parents went, successful there, turn pro, web.com tour, miss a few cuts, then have a win or second, whatever, earn your PGA Tour card, and you win in your first year. Shooting 61 in the final round in Vegas. I remember watching that on TV going, dang, this kid can go. Then all of a sudden you're thrust into the limelight. And the following year, you are in the final group at Augusta National alongside one dude called Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
Man, welcome to the world. Let's revisit that because I don't think the golfer at large listening to this or watching you guys on TV realizes how hard it is, even when you're at the highest level.
Yeah, golf was easy at that time. It really was. I didn't have too many days where I walked off the golf course where I could find too many shots that I miss. It was just not a complicated game to me at the time. I was making most of the cuts I played in. I was finishing top 25 more often than not. Didn't have too many questions about my game, able to just kind of work on just the basic. It's where I assume where guys like Scotty and Xander always live, which is just maintenance
Mm.
and then be able to just go play golf. And you're lucky to have. I was lucky to have stretches of a good length like that in my career. There's many players that find it for just 1 week. I found it for an extended period of time where I was able to play some really high quality golf on the PGA Tour. It's the games though. It's man. It's wild because I've had multiple ups and downs. Like I've hardly ever just been like a flatliner. I wish I was a guy that just went and had 17 pars and a birdie. That's never been me. I was either always like down the leaderboard in college or I was at near the top.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how golf has always been for me. It's either been really, really easy or it's been really hard. And I wish it was somewhere in the middle sometimes.
Hey, I want to ask you this because you were in the final group there at the Masters, had the bad final. I think it was the final day, maybe.
Yeah, it was
Um,
Sunday.
yeah. But but then I got to ask this. You're hanging out with Jordan and JT and Ricky. You're buddies anyway. And then you
Hmm.
got to become the SB2K guys. I mean, it was wherever you turned, the spotlight was kind of on you. I, everyone watching this wants to be famous and have fame and fortune. Um, Help people navigate that because the brighter the light is, the more pressure it almost puts on one. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you are. And I think we can kind of look at certain guys as examples. I'll talk about myself first, and then I'll kind of pivot to another couple guys that come to mind
Mhm.
in this generation. But uh, I think that I look back now and realize that my expectations were really high. They always were high, though. When you were playing as good as I was, why wouldn't your expectations be extremely high?
Mhm.
And whenever my stuff got started to get off, and those quick fixes and the maintenance issues that I could easily fix on the golf course became much more difficult. Became more difficult, and that's when your mind really starts to think. And this is right around the same time where social media is starting to become a thing,
Yeah.
and it did affect me for probably a year or two. I really think that I wish social media wasn't a thing, and I always wonder if hey if I never had social media and it never existed, where would I be now? Because it led me to places that I didn't know my mind could go to. Just the the defeat feeling of leaving the golf course and feeling like you're not getting better, and then taking it to the next tournament to try to instantly get results. If you don't, start off the tournament well, it's over. And I kept on just having that cycle of just trying to not only prove to myself how good I was, but prove to everybody else as well. I think those expectations hampered me down. But I also look at other players too that maybe is in a good example that we've seen kind of the limelights shined on them a little bit. And Joel Damon's one that comes to mind, a player that was really good at just kind of, keeping his card every single year, having really solid results. Probably did better not having the limelight on him with his golf game. And then Netflix comes out. Now he's a superstar. Everybody, we all love Joel. Anybody that's been on the PGA Tour has always loved him. Now the world loves him. And now he's got to find a way to play some really, the same golf that he's been playing, but now expectations get higher. And I think Netflix did that was probably their best episode they've had in the series was Joel's and Wyndham's, just the correlation of how difficult life and golf can be. And you could see that Joel was going through some spurt of that as well. And another example too, I think, is the PGA Tour is really good about identifying great personalities that they want to promote and really likable guys, similar to Joel and the same guy that was playing with him in that group in Phoenix, Harry Higgs.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is the man, the big rig.
Mhm.
He came on our show the other day and just speaks so well, the most likable guy in the world. And unfortunately, the PGA Tour can't guarantee you that you're going to have a job. And
Yeah.
for Harry, I think whether it was expectations, um, trying too hard, loses his card. And we've been seeing, I don't know if you've read much from Harry over the years, just his trying too hard seemed to be the theme of everything he always talked about. And for Harry, I think he's finally gotten over the hump of I'm a good player just the way I am. I'm Harry Higgs. This is who I am. I think you've started to see that the talented Harry Higgs of hey, I'm comfortable in my own skin. I don't have to be playing Scotty Scheffler golf. Let me just play Harry Higgs golf. And what do you know? He's second on the Korn Ferry Tour points race this year and has a PGA Tour card for next year.
You bring up such a good point because it's weird, right? I think this is a life thing. We're getting a bit deep here, you and me, where everyone's striving for better. But when you're out
Yes,
there playing, you got to sort of work hard and then go out there and play like you almost don't care. You're walking this tightrope between not caring enough and caring too much. And somewhere in the middle of that, you guys are walking this thing to go, okay, I got to work hard, but when I hit shots, I just got to hit them and let my talent come out. But that's so hard when things aren't going your way.
totally. And I see that a little bit from time to time with Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
I think that he kind of walks that line a little bit when he's over the hump with that and just allows his brain just to hit shots and play golf and not be in too much technical mode. There's nobody that plays the game with more artistry than he does, and it's so fun to watch. Um, I, I'm with you. I think that we kind of saw it in the full swing thing with Brooks right before he went to live, just talking about how he couldn't get away from the game when he left the golf course. And I think any player in any sport will tell you if they're able to get away from their sport, away from where their court or field is, it makes the game that much more easy because you're going to have the mental strength to be able to get through the day.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about whether it's a shot from the day before or just like what you're working on your swing, and then as soon as things get off the railroad track, you're burning so much mental energy and you got no chance over 72 holes to be competitive. And I think that to me is what it seems like. Scotty doesn't have a worry in the world, right? Like when I watch him, he's just kind of hanging out. I don't think he's thinking about a whole lot.
Yeah, that's you've sort of led me to this too. You're doing a great job of segueing me. You know,
Podcast guy,
yeah, well, you're a pro
man.
now. I want you first off, and then I'm going to lead you. I want you first off to tell everyone watching and listening to this that even you guys have spurts or times within the round when things are just not there. It's kind of like on again, off again, on again, off again. And then you talk about Scotty. He's always sort of seems on again, but he wasn't winning because during that off ball striking period, he'd miss a putt or two, and all of a sudden,
Hmm.
a few over, right?
Right.
I don't think the golfer at large realizes that even you guys, some stage during the round, you don't really have it, and you're cobbling together something, and you're doing it with good chipping and putting and course management.
It's a great point. And Tiger Woods was the best at it, finding a way to shoot 2 under par 70 when he just doesn't have anything that day. And that's the difference of good and great on the PGA Tour, is the players that turn the 2 over 74 rounds into 2 under 70s, because you're going to have stretches of a 72 hole tournament where you just don't have it. But like I've noticed this with Xander a bunch, is that I constantly watch him now, and there are times I'm like, man, yeah, he just doesn't have it today. And then end of the day, he shoots 3 under.
Yeah.
And I'm just, man, he made that look way better than what it was. And I think that's there's no better compliment if you're able to find a way to make it not look pretty, but still confuse the people out there watching that. And Scotty's the all-timer at that. Um, it's yeah, it's not easy to do that, and I'm jealous of them. I'm jealous of Xander and Scotty being able to do exactly that.
Well, you had some of what they do because you were a good putter. I mean, I shouldn't
Hmm.
date this. It's a podcast. It's the week after the Travelers Championship in 24. And I had Xander on Saturday. And he had the worst warm up, man. He barely squared one up. They were spinny off into the wind to the right. Shows up on the first tee, fizzes one down the middle, gets a little pinpoint. But then when he hit a poor shot, the lag putts from 40 feet were up there to like a couple feet away. And
Hmm.
somehow, even with the poor ball striking, he looked like it was stress free, dare I say, because of the short
Right.
game. We saved it.
Yeah, no, it's funny how sometimes my best rounds have been after a poor warm up. I think that was something that a player has to just trust what they have, and sometimes your just body isn't moving good enough early in the morning, and maybe there's some dew on the ground, and and the golf balls got some moisture on it. You just got to find ways to make excuses, and not point at yourself. I still feel like the best players in the world, whether you like it or not, they find a way to blame other things. They don't ever really look at themselves. They'll find, they'll say, wow, the grain, how does it move it that much? Scotty said that all the time, just so confused. How does the ball do that? It's
Jordan's
never
the big one. How did the ball
Jordan's.
bounce down the hill?
How does it bounce that way? Eh, But there's a psychological element to that, because I think that any athlete has to believe that no matter the circumstances, that they're the best in the world at what they do. And you don't want to fill yourself negativity on a missed putt. You don't want to blame yourself. Oh man, my technique is crap. Oh man, I got no chance. I think that one of the most important things any player can do after a missed shot or a bad putt, a bad drive, is to just instantly come up with this solution of, okay, what happened there? Just a quick reaction of what went wrong. And for the next shot, be able to go and try to make that correction. And you kind of referenced that a minute ago, how, being able to not have your best stuff and shoot good scores, that to me is probably just about as the most important thing, because all these coaches and all this technology is out on the range. But as soon as the gun goes off, you've got to be able to run through a checklist of a couple different things to be able to make adjustments on the fly. And whether that's shot shape, moving the ball back in your up in your stance, shortening your golf swing, aiming a little bit more left or right, you've got to be able to know what your fixes are. And I think that when I was playing my best, I would try to shorten my golf swing, put the ball further up in my stance. I would aim further right, and I would make sure that I got the club shaft to tilt the correct way on the downswing.
Mhm.
And I would play with that the rest of the day, and I would just try to play a pull straight shot. And I would go away from trying to hit draws and fades. And after the round, I'd go to the range and I would go work on hitting fades and draws, because I was always better in creative mode. And when I didn't have it that day, it's like, all right, let's just go to what we know we can do and just get done with the round, trust your short game, and know you can make birdies on par fives, and then go try to figure it out for the next day.
Man, this is good stuff. It reminds me of a story Gary Player told me. And he's like, I'm a young kid coming over from South Africa, and Jack Nicklaus, best golfer in the world. He goes, and I get grouped with him. And the first hole's this downhill hole, trouble down the left. Jack with driver hooks it into the woods. Goes with iron on the next one, makes double bogey. doesn't hit driver for the rest of the day and shoots like 1 under.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to lunch, and Gary says, I go up to him and I'm like, Jack, you only hit driver 1 time. And Jack was like, yeah, you think I was going to try hit driver again after that first snap hook off the first tee? But then he went to the range and fixed it after. And I think what you share there for the aspirant golfer is crucial to like you say, be creative and find a way to get this thing in the house as good as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've been pretty bad about that over the years. I wish I was better because I don't have to like be so results oriented like I used to be. Now I just try to do everything, and I think it's probably been for the worst because I don't have to sign a scorecard anymore. And it's a beautiful thing. I get to enjoy the game, but I also know that it's not the right way to really improve and to shoot the lowest score possible. Because I think for the longest time, a score defined who I was and how the rest of my day went. And I felt the less I kept score, the better. I just want to enjoy the game that I love. And I think now that I keep score for the most part, most times I play. And if things are just not, it's not a good day, I just got to stop keeping score. I'm just like, I'm not gonna get into a bad mood because of a bad golf round. I did enough of that over the years.
Okay, but I'll build on that. When you shot that final round 61, I
Hmm.
hesitate to put this out there, but I would guess that, going up the last hole, you didn't really know what your score was. You were just going, yes?
Hey, I just going, because I think started the day in the 20s, so I was in the lead at the time, and I knew I just needed probably to post something. And it's that beautiful place where you're playing golf where your subconscious is just taking over. You're not thinking, you're just in that trance of blacking out, if you will, and you just don't really know what happened, but it's just that ability to get in the zone. I've never been able to struggle with that when I've gotten it going, just being able to lock in and get into the zone. Um, and I think a lot of people too, if you watch me play on the PGA Tour back in the day, if you watch me long enough, I had a temper. I was not Smylie out there. Like the guy that in the broadcast, the guy that from my pod, just the upbeat personality. I was very like much more of a John Rahm type, super ultra competitive, would wear my emotions on my sleeve, and really was not necessarily like a flatliner like a Colin Morikawa or a Xander. I when I hit bad shots, I was frustrated, I was mad. Anytime I could find anything to just I just like wanted 12 rubber bands on my wrist just to be able to pop them, just to be able to yell as loud as I could in a bubble to where I could just get all of that energy out. And I think part of it is great when you have, I wouldn't ever tell John Rahm to change who he is. And I never wanted to change that competitive side from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I started playing poorly, I really noticed a difference in my competitive levels because I stopped getting mad as much. I was much kinder with myself. And I if I was more frustrated and negative with myself, I probably would have been in a really bad place. But I think I understood where I was and that I needed to be kind with myself because I was struggling so much. But God, there's nothing better than when the fire starts to light back inside of me when I'm playing golf now and I make a mistake and I have it going. It's fun to kind of get that juice back where I'm like, oh man, this is how I used to be. This is this is the ultra competitive fun side that's coming out.
Well, I think kind of to summarize that all, we know we are human beings who play golf. We're not golfers who happen to be human beings, yeah? And we got emotions. We
Hmm.
mess with this stuff. Just along those lines, you've played in countless pro-ams. If you had to sort of gloss through the memories in your head after watching golfers of all skill levels, first off, when I've watched them, they all try so hard when they're playing alongside you guys, and then they suck. But if you had to look at um, golfers and pro-am players and club golfers, if there was like a common mistake that they make, is there such a thing in your memory?
For the most part, they don't take enough club. I would say that's probably the biggest thing. Not taking enough club with their irons. I would say that the bunker game is what makes me like the most annoyed of just like people that don't understand bunker technique. When I see a guy get in there with a square club face, I immediately stop him. I'm like, what are we doing here? Let me tell you how to use the bounce. Let's open the face here and let's splash the sand. So I would say that would be the two biggest things is just bunker technique, which I think is a very coachable um, part of the game that may seem daunting to a lot of people, but really it's so like take a golf ball out of the bunker, draw a line in the sand, and just work on just striking a line in the sand consistently with some speed, with an open face, and that's all you really need to do in a bunker, and just hit an inch or two behind it. I would say that probably Mark would be the bunker game, and then just guys just not taking enough club.
You're tickling the coach inside of me. You talk about the bunker game, and I'm hearing somewhere in the back of my head, most golfers who want to get better, they're not prepared to go and practice things like that because they suck out of the bunkers, so they don't want to be exposed. Yet
That's
you
a good
guys,
point.
yeah, you guys, I mean, when you watch a professional prepare, you guys, it's like preparing for an examination. You touch on every
Hmm.
element of the game.
Well, you want to have all the answers to the test before you get out there to where you could just go and play. So you just want to have the technique, all of the question marks on what do I do on an uphill, downhill lie, or what if it's a really green, blue, thick grass rough that we'll have, or downgrade? How much off do I take with it from there? So there's all these different elements that we have to prepare for. But yeah, I have some buddies that don't do a whole lot of practice, and I'll tell them, hey, this is what you need to go work on, and it's fine. I mean, I'm for somebody like myself who doesn't, I haven't put down a chalk line in 3 years, but I just show up now, just like you know what, nobody can putt better than me. And I just show up with that attitude that I don't need the training like I used to have. And it's funny that I probably didn't ever really need as much maintenance with my putting like I would do every single day. Uh, because I think it's just naturally something that I'm very good at. But the other stuff, the full swing does that gets a little bit more off from day to day.
Yeah, the Smiley I know is a smile on his face, but he is a competitor. And I guarantee you, those buddies, one of them who doesn't putt very well, and they've got 5 feet to win the hole, you're not giving that thing to them. I mean, you're like, I want to see you
Oh heck
change
no.
over it. No, yeah.
Heck no.
Hey,
No, I like to have something on the line in any time I play, whether it could be for $1, just a match, just something to keep me motivated because it is fun to go out and play with your buddies and have a good time. But also like I want to be competitive too. I want to enjoy the element of competition and just being able to, pull shots off and hit shots like I know I can. So it's
yeah,
always fun to and especially when I birdie 18, always keeps me back coming wanting to play more.
right. Speaking of answers to tests, a few weeks ago at the US Open at Pinehurst, number two, on Saturday, correct me if I'm wrong, you had Bryson, eventual winner. On Sunday, you had Rory, yes?
Let's see. I had Bryson on Thursday. I
Okay,
know
so
that.
but you had Bryson and you had
Saturday
Rory.
I had Cantley and Dietrich on Saturday, so that was a slower day. But
Right.
I had Bryson Thursday, Rory on Sunday.
So basically, you saw the eventual winner and runner up playing
Yeah.
on a golf course that was mean. It was difficult. There was no let up. It felt like I wasn't there. It looked like every shot was kind of on the knife edge a little bit. Revisit that with us because I think there's so much to learn because you watch these two guys play under awfully difficult conditions that somehow find a way to thrive, yet at the same time, they weren't always at their best. They were recovering and sort of hanging around. So I'd just love you to just wax a little bit.
Well, it's funny that you do say that they did finish 1-2. And watching Bryson on Thursday and just keeping an eye on Rory the rest of the week and then seeing him on Sunday, I just felt like who was going to beat these two guys. Especially I didn't know who was going to beat Bryson. After watching him play golf on Thursday, it was one of the most impressive driving rounds I've ever seen, and just his ability to hit it 330, 340 yards on repeat right down the middle. This high, beautiful draw just is a different game. And he's playing with some of the best players in the world, and he made whoever he was playing with just look like they were playing a different game. It just that ability to me, and maybe he could have been a little bit more penalized in some drives on where they ended up. But you got to give him all the credit in the world because he didn't have his ball striking the entire week. And
Yeah.
like we've talked about before, his ability to get up and down and be resilient and have the patience to not aim down at flag sticks of the US Open, especially at Pinehurst, which is uh, the greens that are just dome shaped that as soon as you start getting aggressive, that's when bogeys start to come in bunches.
Mm-hmm.
Because I asked Bryson after the round on Thursday, because I felt like there was a really low score for him out there that day if he wanted to, because I thought the greens were just soft enough that he could maybe hit some iron shots a little bit closer to the pin.
Yeah.
And I asked him after the round, and he answered saying that, it's a US Open. I know this golf course. I know my game plan, sticking with hitting it towards the middle of the green, the fat sides of the green, and giving myself 20 footers is the formula for the race over 72 holes here. And I thought that showed a lot of maturity in his game, to be able to show up, even though you're having the driving round of your life, to not aim at flags with wedges. Like there wasn't a hole he didn't have a wedge or 9 iron in, besides some par threes, which were probably still close to a 9 iron. Let's be real. I just thought that was really impressive with Bryson's game. And then, you mentioned Rory, and I thought his short game was just fantastic throughout the entire week. His best putting round of the week was on Sunday, outside of two really short putts that we'll never forget and we'll never stop talking about. But I want Rory to win a major as bad as anybody else. He's so good for the game, and it's so fun to watch him play the game. But still, it's got to be still has to be so difficult for him to swallow.
Yeah. You talk about Bryson and Rory. If I had to summarize your Bryson observation, I would use that word that all you pros use when I interview guys like you, and you're like, patience. I got to trust the process, stick to my routines, and it's trite, but it's true. And then with Rory, early in the round, I was watching you. I love to listen to you on the course. And I remember after about the seventh, eighth, maybe ninth hole, I tweeted, I'm like, Rory's short game is keeping him in this thing right now, because
Yes.
he was hitting some unreal chip and pitch shots and then making the 4 and 5 footers. And isn't it crazy how what kept him in it let him down when the chips were down? And that to me, everyone will talk about the misses, but I'm like, it's kind of sometimes just our game in the worst way, where you're doing the right thing, and then when it means something, it's not there. But all what you guys do, I think, is what the key to you said the difference between good and greats is the greats will get knocked over and they'll gather themselves and revisit the thing and learn from it and then pick themselves back up and just go out there again.
Yeah, and thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it, Mark. You as well. Fun to listen to over the CVS team, and I, I've had some time to kind of think about this, and I feel like with Rory, the it's not his. We know he knows how to win. He's won so many times and wins multiple times a year. For over the last 10 years, winning and closing the deal has not been an issue. So I think that was the biggest surprise to me was down the stretch. He's always been able to just close events out by just, playing just the Rory golf that he knows how to play. So it surprised me that he'd done everything up until 15 perfectly, just exactly the way he drew it up. Besides a really poor break at the fifth hole.
No, the par five. Yeah.
Yes, poor break there at the fifth hole, but the tactical area at the tactical error at 15, choosing the wrong club, hitting a 7 iron instead of an 8, ending up in the worst possible place. You give away a bogey there. And then 16, that one to me was the only way that Rory McIlroy misses that putt is if he loses his concentration and focus.
Okay.
So in some way he was either looking ahead, thinking about something else, or just not being able to just lock in and knock that putt in. Because Roy is a really good putter inside of 3 feet. I've never really hardly seen him miss those putts, especially on a day in which he's made everything. So chalk that up for that. Gets up and down at 17, and then 18. Everybody talks about the putt, but the chip to me was the big mistake, not leaving that below the hole. I didn't think it was a very difficult chip. I know it's the 72nd hole of a US Open in a major, and who am I to say that I know exactly what that feels like? But I've watched the entire golf round at that point, and I felt like it was probably one of the easier pitches that he has had to that point. And I just felt like if you know you have to make par, give yourself the best look, which is to that pin we all know is underneath that hole.
Mhm. Okay, I'm armchair quarterbacking because I wasn't there. And at this stage, we're living the thing all the fans are. I was curious because let me backtrack. I heard Scotty Scheffler, or I heard the report that Scotty Scheffler said what he felt uncomfortable there was the design of the golf course with the wiregrass on either sides of the fairways in the native areas. He goes, it didn't really give you a side to miss.
Mm.
And I mean, that's brilliant in itself because Scotty looks at a target and he goes, okay, it's safe to miss there. So he gives himself a bit of an out. So there you got 18. Rory has the lead there. I'm surprised he didn't go with some sort of fairway finder because still then he'd have some sort of short club in there. Just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about this because he had hit 3-wood another day. I think it had everything to do with it being a back hole location. I
Okay.
felt like if he hit drive or he hits it up in the stuff, he's gonna have something that he can land on the front of the green and chase it back. Driver didn't bother me at all. The days that he had hit 3-wood off that tee, it was for the front pins, so he'd
Okay.
have a 4 club in. I mean, this 18th hole at Pinehurst compared to back when it was in 99 or 2005 where players are hitting 7s and 6 irons in. I think to a back pin on Sunday, Rory, if I recall, had somewhere around 117.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a different game these guys are playing now.
Got you. Hey, Smiley, this has been just loaded with insights that would help people to play better golf. So I'm thinking that folks will want to hear from you more. So tell them where they can find your podcast. Tell them where they find you, website, social media, and such, please.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun to come on here and talk. I know you and I have been wanting to do this for a while now, so it's been very, very fun. And yeah, every week we drop a couple episodes on the Smylie Show. It's on the Sports Grid Network. It's on YouTube. You can find it wherever you watch or listen. Find your podcast. So we've been doing that for a little over a year now. It's been a lot of fun, and we're keeping it real over on social media as well. Smylie Kaufman 10 on everything. So it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, man. It was a lot of fun. It truly was. I appreciate being able to feature you, and I'm thankful that you would come on and be so honest because, you know, the best way for everyone around the world who watch this or listen to this is to learn from honesty. And you've been so candid. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course, Mark. Anytime, and I look forward to seeing you soon.